You want to know how you don't make a $10,000 mistake when buying land for a manufactured home? A subscriber of mine just bought some land and was having their new manufactured home delivered to their site. When they got there, they couldn't get through because, first of all, the road was too narrow. Secondly of all, there was a ton of telephone lines. And not only that, it cost him an additional $10,000 to have the home delivered. There's some other things you need to know if you're buying a piece of land for a manufactured home that could cost you a lot of money if you don't know these things. Because it's not always the same when you're buying a piece of land for a manufactured home as it is for a traditional built home. Pull out a pen, get your calculator out so you can add up some of these things that will end up costing you a lot if you don't know. So let me explain why it cost him an additional $10,000. So when he bought the piece of land, he knew that there was a bunch of trees and he cleared out all the trees in front of the lot. He also knew there was a bunch of electrical lines in that area and he did make the arrangements for that. But he didn't count on the fact on how narrow the road was getting to the piece of property. The main road was wide enough for the manufactured home to be delivered. But once you got up to the dirt road, it was a little too thin. Now, somebody from the manufactured home company where he purchased it from did come out to the property and survey it and gave him an estimate on how much it was going to cost. That estimate ended up being off by $10,000. So that's going to be my first tip to you. When you're buying a piece of land for your manufactured home, look to see how many power lines are in the area. I want you to see if the road is wide enough for your home to be delivered on, because I know here in Louisiana, we have very thin roads, and sometimes it makes it very difficult to get those manufactured homes in the location. Be aware of that. Also see how many trees are very low hanging, and it might make it very difficult to have your manufactured home delivered because you never know what's going to cause a problem and add a lot more money to the overall budget that you had. Now, in some cases, you can add those additional costs to your loan. In other cases, you may not be able to. Luckily for this person, they were able to do that. It just was an unexpected expense that I wanted to share with you, and they wanted me to tell you guys too. So I'm sharing it out there. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you giving me the heads up on that. You followed all the steps. You've done everything right. The piece of land is zoned residential. You can put a manufactured home on it, only to find out that there was a restriction that you had to have a manufactured home that was less than 10 years old, and you bought yourself a pre-owned manufactured home and it's no longer in compliance of what the rules are for the county. This could be a very costly mistake, especially if you purchase it cash and you can't return the manufactured home that you purchased. Just be aware of that when you're going to purchase a piece of land. Make sure you really look over those restrictions because it might be in the fine print that it has to be less than 10 years old. Now, when it comes to buying a piece of land for a manufactured home, another thing you need to be aware of is that even though the zoning may say residential, it may not allow for manufactured homes or modular homes. In a lot of cases, like in the state of Louisiana, our MLS will say that it allows for manufactured homes. But in some other areas, it may not say that at all. Always make sure you check the restrictions to see if that allows for manufactured homes if you're planning on putting one on the lot. Another thing I want you to be aware of too, if there was a manufactured home on that piece of property prior, that doesn't mean that you'll be allowed to put a manufactured home on there again. Check with the state and city to see if anything has changed when it comes to the restrictions for that piece of property. There might be some new city ordinances that do not allow for manufactured homes. That is the case in many areas around here in Louisiana. They may have allowed for manufactured homes before. That doesn't mean you can replace it with a new manufactured home. Size can matter when it comes to a manufactured home and buying a piece of land. So sometimes when you're buying a piece of land and it says that it was approved for a manufactured home or it doesn't have a manufactured home restriction, in some areas they still have the size of the lot restriction. They may allow for manufactured homes in that specific area, but you have to have at least 1 acre. So let's just say you see a piece of land that you would want to purchase and it's only half an acre. So you go to get approval by the county because it says it's approved for manufactured homes. So they're going to tell you no because it requires 1 acre. So be aware of that too. So you may have the right size lot that is required by the county, but they might require that the manufactured home has to be at least over 1,500 square feet. That's another thing about the restrictions in buying land for a manufactured home. Make sure you buy the right size manufactured home for the lot that you have just purchased. Now, this next tip has to do with buying the manufactured home itself more than buying the land. If you plan on buying a manufactured home in a location that is very far away from where you're having it delivered, that could cost you a lot more. Some sales lots will charge per mile on how far they actually have to deliver it. That isn't the truth in all cases. And some of the larger manufacturers, they will not have that as a cost. But make sure you understand how much it will cost cost you to get to the location that you're planning on putting your brand new manufactured home. A lot of the things are the same when you're buying land for a manufactured home as they are for buying any type of structure that goes on a brand new piece of dirt. But of course, always make sure to have utilities that can go out. Does it already have electricity out to the piece of property? And if it doesn't, find out how much it would cost you to have the electricity brought out to the piece of land. Is the land cleared? Always make sure that there is available well water. If not, you can tie into city water and city sewer. If it has an old septic system on there, you're probably going to need new approval. Find out how much the approval for the city is going to cost. You're also going to want to make sure that the four corners are marked. If the four corners have been marked previously and you can't find the flags in the ground, go ahead and take a metal detector and you can find them in the ground because they will stake it with little metal pylons and you'll be able to find it. You want to make sure that it has a survey on file to know exactly where the setbacks are. A thing to note on those setbacks, if you're planning on putting any kind of decks on that manufactured home, find out if you're going to be able to do that with the setbacks that they have aligned. Oh my God, there's a dog coming. Hey buddy, are you okay? You look like you've been up to trouble. The next thing on your checklist before you sign on the dotted line that you're purchasing this piece of land is to bring it over to your lender and find out if your lender is going to be able to roll in the manufactured home and the piece of land as well. In some cases, they'll be doing something called like a drive-by appraisal to make sure that the properties in the area at least appraised for the same amount as you're going to be borrowing for your brand new manufactured home and the land improvements you're going to be doing on that piece of property. Another thing you need to be aware of too is you're going to have to find out how much a driveway is going to be. In a lot of cases, the lender isn't going to do a driveway. You're going to have to come out of pocket with that. Now, when you're going through this checklist, do this for every single piece of property and make sure you put the property address at the top so that way you know which ones are which, and then put any kind of identifying features about that piece of property so you always remember it, because sometimes when you're looking at some of these properties, they kind of like run over and over in your head. It's always good to have those handy, especially if you're buying this with somebody else, so that way you guys have that identifying features so you can talk about it over dinner. Free land and inherited land may not be as free as you thought. If you're buying land from a family member, don't take their word for anything they've said about that piece of land. You love them, but you don't necessarily need to trust them. Every family member thinks they're sitting on a gold mine, and a lot of times it's not worth as much as they think that it is in their head. So this happened to somebody you guys may know, you might have seen a video or two, but they bought a piece of land from a family member. They were asked to pay a certain price about it. With the market being as hot as it was, they seemed like they were pretty okay with the price that they were getting. So they were just about to sign on the dotted line with that. And then when it came down to the price of everything that was rolled in, it was not going to be affordable. Their bank said, nope, we can't do it. It isn't worth how much you're purchasing it for. So the appraisal process is always something that kind of saves you if you're buying a piece of land. But if you're buying it cash from a family member, that can really kind of bite you in the butt, especially if the land that you were purchasing wasn't worth the valuation of it. Now, sometimes when you're buying a manufactured home for the manufactured home lot, they'll have lots available for you to put your new home on. Be very wary of this and make sure that the value they're charging you for that lot is exactly the value that it's worth. Now, if you're kind of just wanting a roundabout number, you can always contact a real estate agent in your area and get something called a cost market analysis and ask them how much lots have sold for in that area in the last like 2 years, just for you to get a roundabout figure of it. Or you can have an appraisal done that will cost you around $300 to $500, because just like anything, people tend to upsell things that weren't necessarily worth exactly what they're trying to sell it for. So just be very wary of that. Now, as you know, prices have been changing recently in the real estate market. So definitely get the updated version of that, especially if you've been waiting a long time to purchase this piece of land, because what it was worth in 2022 is not going to be the same as it's worth in 2023. So always make sure you have an updated version of that CMA. And they need to see that in black and white so they know for sure that you're not trying to like win one over on them. Buying property from family can get really, really tricky. Now you're going to have some friends and family that tell you that manufactured homes, no matter if it's on a lot or in a manufactured home park, aren't worth the money. And the only thing that goes up in value is the land. Well, let me show you this statistic. Across the country, the median values of mobile homes increased 34.6% on average between 2016 to 2021, compared to 35.4% for single family homes based on LendingTree analysis from the US Census. Now, not all manufactured homes are going to increase in value. That relates to the land as well. In a lot of cases, you'll hear people say that only land increases in value, but the home itself will decrease in value. And just like anything in real estate, it has to do with how you take care of the property, where you purchase the land, location, location, location. Don't let anybody talk you out of it if this is something you've had your heart set on and that it's something that's going to be affordable for you and your family. Still, it can increase in value, and it isn't just the land itself. Again, though, it has to do with the location and how you maintain it, just like any piece of property, just like any kind of real estate. So when you're searching for a piece of land, make sure it's in an area that you want to live in that has historically increased in value throughout the years. And if you're not 100% sure, you can always check with a real estate agent. Just ask them, how has land increased in value? You can also ask them to pull up any kind of records for manufactured homes and how they've increased in value or decreased in value. So that way you're better aware of what goes on in that specific area you're wanting to move. So are you thinking about buying a raw piece of land for a manufactured home this year? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, I didn't cover everything you need to know when it comes to buying a piece of land, but I did in these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.